Oh. Legend.
Beginning with a terrorist attack, a bunch of mercenaries infiltrate a government lab and decimate everyone standing in their way. In a coordinated and concise operation, they steal an unknown device. Meanwhile, a government agent by the name of Nathan Jasmine is making his way to the office to be briefed about this attack.
Nathan.
He is tasked by his superior, Norman, with building a team to identify any information about the heist. But they basically know nothing about what happened. Despite Norman's objections, Nathan puts Orson in charge of leading the team. Nathan insists that he is the best man for the job and leaves to drag Orson away from his vacation in Morocco. Nathan surprises Orson with a visit, but he's immediately told to scram by the vulgar Orson, who's very much enjoying his holiday with no desire to get back to work. It takes some convincing, but eventually they hop on a fancy private jet where Orson is informed that he will not be working with his usual team. Instead, his new team will consist of Sarah Fidel and J.J. Davies, who will meet him as soon as they land. Immediately, Sarah annoys Orson, a legendary agent, with her sarcastic nature, while JJ appears more laid back. To catch the handler carrying the stolen device in a briefcase, they take their positions inside the airport. But things quickly go south as their backup gets picked off one by one. This is when Orson senses that something is wrong, and he orders his team to head outside. Orson is immediately followed by two men who try to tase him, but this is Jason Statham we're talking about, and he gets the drop on them before they can. He makes sure they feel the effect of the tasers that were meant for him as the team quickly grabs the handler from the grasp of another team. They make their escape in a van as they download the information from the hard drive inside the briefcase. Suddenly, they get blocked off on the road and are quickly surrounded while the handler has a heart attack. Just as Nathan finishes downloading the information, the other team from earlier breaks open the van. Surprisingly, their leader is Mike, their colleague who works for the same government as them. It's revealed that Norman sent two teams for the same mission to encourage competition. After finding out where the delivery of the briefcase was taking place, the team travels to Madrid. Nathan pretends to be the handler as they identify Ben Harris, the lawyer of Greg Simmons, one of the world's biggest arms dealers. Orson says that if Ben is involved, then Simmons must be working on something huge. After finding out that Simmons is hosting a charity event in Cannes, they decide to follow. But on the plane, Nathan is awakened to the news that they're landing in LA instead. Orson explains that they need an invitation to get into the charity event and that their invitation comes in the form of Danny Francesco, a global movie star who just happens to be Simmons' favorite actor. Orson meets Danny in his private jet and blackmails him with footage of his affair with his sister-in-law, telling him that for his newest role, he's going to help his country save the world. Of course, Danny is left with no option but to comply. Upon arriving at Cannes, Danny begins panicking, thinking that the killers will realize he's working against them. But Orson and Sarah tell them that he's done it before on screen, and that agents are just trained actors. Sarah tells him,
"You're an actor. Act."
They arrive at the party, and immediately, everyone is fascinated with the celebrity. Simmons introduces himself to Danny by buying him a necklace worth $1.5 million. Now looking very suspicious, for the first time in his life, Danny struggles to play a role even though he's just playing himself. After fanboying for too long, Simmons suggests they make their way to the bar and offers them a weekend at his Turkish villa. Abruptly, Simmons' assistant grabs his phone to go answer a shady call in private. Sarah follows her to the next room to download data from the assistant's phone and plant a bug inside the office. Meanwhile, Orson identifies a member of Mike's team acting as a waiter and follows him around. At the same time, Sarah continues downloading information and is almost caught by Ben Harris. She plays it off by pretending to be admiring the artwork to keep him talking while the download continues. As Orson corners the waiter, he offers him a bribe to pack it up and call it a day. The waiter accepts his watch, but the greedy bastard asks for more. As a result, Orson is insulted by his greed and begins to beat him up around the yacht until he's finally knocked out on a jet ski. Sarah goes back to the party, and Danny is surrounded by fans trying to take selfies with him. Using the distraction to his advantage, Simmons begins hitting on Sarah and asks her to consider his offer of showing her the world. As everyone is in a predicament, Orson comes to the rescue and takes his team away. After they are done, Danny is exhilarated from playing the role of himself.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Using the bug that Sarah planted to listen inside Simmons' office, the seller turns out to be one of Danny's fanboys, Alexander. He asks who the buyer is, but Simmons is an ethical man refusing to reveal any information about his clients' identities. At this point, they still don't know anything about the weapon that was stolen or who was buying it, so the next morning, they plan on hacking the seller's computers to at least reveal it was stolen. Since the computers are super secure, the only way to get inside is the good old-fashioned way, hacking through a thumb drive. In his own way of showing affection, Orson volunteers to break into Alexander's villa and Sarah responds to his gesture with her annoying sarcastic comments. As night comes, Orson infiltrates the mansion using knockout gas in the ventilation system to just casually walk in. The cellar is out cold and Orson casually sits down watching TV before he snags just about every watch and piece of jewelry he finds to make it look like a robbery. After getting into the safe and hacking into the computer, he makes his way out but is stopped by a couple of guards, and we suddenly jump forward in time to him exiting the premises. We wonder what the hell happened there, but we can probably assume that he beat everyone up. The next morning, Nathan is seasoning his eggs while asking Orson if he ran into any trouble while hacking the computer. He denies running into any problems. The team listens in on Simmons' phone that they tapped as he's talking in code to one of his associates, who reveals that Alexander's villa was robbed and the guards were badly beaten by the perpetrator. And now we finally know what happened. Orson managed to get the drop on the two guards as he mercilessly beat the crap out of them. Nathan gets angry at Orson for carelessly beating the guards, but they are brought back to reality when Simmons reveals that he's going to Turkey to broker the buy. Luckily, Sarah and Danny will be traveling with Simmons to his mansion. With the entire team in Turkey, Danny is in his element, embracing his ultimate role of playing Danny. We get to Simmons' luxurious mansion where he shows Danny just how much of a fan he really is. He shows Danny a car he had acquired from the set of one of his movies, and Danny responds by confessing how much love he has for this car, saying it was the only car from any movie he's thought about keeping, as Simmons gives it to him out of friendship. You get the foreshadowing feeling that this friendship will steal Danny away from the team. Oblivious to what's happening, the team stays at a hotel nearby while Danny bonds with Simmons cruising in the car. Sarah, meanwhile, is back at the mansion roaming around, looking for cameras and any new information. This is when the assistant spots her and asks Sarah what she's doing. Although she tries acting like a lost, naive girl, the assistant remains suspicious. Later on, Orson and JJ monitor Simmons' associate, who suspiciously leaves a seemingly normal newspaper behind and leaves. Suddenly, one of the goons grabs it and leaves to hand it to Ben, who was waiting in the distance. At the same time, Sarah hacks into the mansion's cameras before breaking into the computers, only to discover that the buy is just for a bunch of 847 deaths. Once he finds out, Nathan decides to pull his agents back and orders them to return, but the rebellious Orson is convinced that if Ben is involved, there's no way that the deal is that small. JJ joins him, and while Orson follows them around town, he taps into Ben's phone, blocking all calls and messages. Luckily, he does because Ben recognizes Orson. With his cover blown, Orson attacks the guard to try and get to Ben before he tells Simmons about their operation. After dispatching the guard, Orson chases after Ben, who took off running, going around the city till Ben reaches a building and swaps his phone with a random civilian. When Orson finally catches up, he finds a body dropped at the bottom of the building. He tells JJ that it's Ben's body and to grab him and leave. When JJ arrives at the scene, he tells him that isn't Ben Harris. Immediately, Ben jumps at Orson, but he evades him and lets Ben fall and land in front of JJ, who says ironically,
"That's Ben Harris."
After the fiasco, the team arrives back at the hotel where they find out that the 847 files are only data keys to the actual hard drive containing the real information about the deal. Turns out the weapon is an AI system that can easily hack into anything in the world and pin the blame on any country or entity at once. If it falls into the wrong hands, it can cause a nuclear catastrophe. They list off what they know, determining that the weapon seller, Alexander, also stole it from the government lab, while Simmons, the broker, found the unknown buyer for $10 billion. Ben was supposed to finalize the exchange, but obviously he's dead now, so Orson decides that he'll take his place since the seller and buyer don't know him anyway. The issue is that he'll need to call Simmons and confirm the code numbers with him, and obviously he doesn't sound like Ben. So they call Sarah, who's with Danny and Simmons enjoying their time. He asks her if she can make Orson sound like Ben, and the tech genius tells them that it's no problem. She'll use AI to make his voice sound like Ben's in real time. She gets started using a voice sample while Orson meets the buyers. He's taken to a spot in the mountains while JJ gears up and follows from behind. While Sarah works her mojo, she tells Danny that Ben is dead, but he immediately panics when she tells him that they're probably going to be exposed soon and need to get ready to make their getaway. Orson arrives at the location of the buy, and JJ takes his position in case things go south, which of course they will. The buyer arrives and things go smoothly at first. Orson calls Simmons and gets the code for the transfer, and the buy is now complete. But things begin taking a turn when Simmons' assistant finds out that someone is hacking the mansion. Meanwhile, back at the exchange, one of the guards that Orson beat up before recognizes him. Talk about bad luck. Before anything can happen, helicopters arrive, triggering an all-out shootout between everyone there. Back at the mansion, Danny runs to his beloved car as the guards look for Sarah, who's trying to get out of Dodge. To make matters worse, back at the scene of battle, it turns out that the new force that swooped in is led by none other than Mike. He swoops in to bust the buy himself despite all the effort made by Orson's team, leaving him enraged. As Sarah and Danny drive out of the mansion, they are stopped by a guard, but only for a selfie with the star. But then they are quickly discovered by Simmons' security as 2 trucks take off chasing after them. Back at the site, Mike arrests everyone, and in a plot twist that really isn't a surprise, he executes everyone as it is revealed that he is a rogue agent sealing the weapon for himself. JJ saves Orson by sniping the men, and they get in a helicopter with Orson barely managing to fly it. Then they go to save Sarah and Danny, who are still being chased by the trucks. Danny drives into a tunnel while the chopper waits on the other side, firing a missile that collapses the tunnel on the enemy truck. Surprisingly, instead of going home, Orson decides that the best plan is to go back to Simmons and negotiate a deal with him. When they return to the mansion, Simmons expresses how hurt he is by their betrayal, especially from his favorite actor. But he tells them that he understands and appreciates their brilliant plan. They ask him for the real buyer, reminding him that he was not paid his commission for setting up the buy in the first place. This is when he finally reveals that the buyers are 2 brothers, Trent and Arnold, who were at the charity party as well. Their evil scheme is to destroy the world banking system, leaving them in control of the only currency left: gold. Nathan calls Norman, telling him about the potential financial atomic bomb on their hands, meaning the only hope left is Orson and his team. The team preps before infiltrating the new buy between Mike and the brothers as Danny and Simmons go to confront them about Simmons' unpaid commission. Orson wipes out the guards in the facility with the help of JJ and proceeds to kill everyone around in lethal fashion. After Simmons delivers a chilling warning to the buyers, he slowly counts down. Suddenly, a series of precision missiles eviscerate everything in their path as they land in the background. He follows that up by threatening to send missile strikes to a list of their family members, stating their pinpoint locations. Meanwhile, Orson gets into the building and continues slaughtering the guards inside while Danny and Simmons leave the buyers. Danny at this point is in complete awe of Simmons' performance. Clearly, he knows how to put the fear of God in someone. Then in another elevator, Orson takes out a whole group like they're nothing. But Mike is already in the room of the buy, where he hacks into the brothers' money accounts and takes it all before shooting them and their team. Arriving late, Orson finds just the bodies before Mike tries attacking him from behind. But we know by now that you can't get the drop on Jason Statham. He easily counters Mike before killing him with the briefcase holding the AI system. A lethal weapon indeed. As he exits the premises, he's informed that Nathan has traveled to Doha to receive the AI system. Then Orson tells his team they are going on vacation. They should, since they just saved the day. The team meets up with Nathan in Doha to deliver the briefcase, and immediately they're offered another job. Orson refuses, saying he wants to go on holiday instead, before adding that he will also be taking the jet. Nathan begs Orson to come back but can't convince him. He grants him his paid vacation but asks Orson to at least return the jewelry that he stole before. But it's too late, as Orson tells him that they're now in the movie business. Nathan's confused by this, and so are we, before the movie ends with a final comedic scene depicting Danny playing a familiar role and acting out exactly what Simmons did to the buyers. The words in the missile strike are exactly the same, and this is how we find out that Simmons is directing the movie himself. The friendship has come full circle. This Jason Statham was a roller coaster ride of action and witty humor. It is a nice break from his usual violent and darker roles as we watch the modern elevated acting versatility of Jason Statham. If you were a fan of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. or basically any Guy Ritchie movie, this is a Guy Ritchie movie on steroids, and we guarantee that it will please anyone who watches it. It is also important to note that the 3 characters involved in the buying and selling of the weapon are each named Trent Alexander and Arnold, named after the famous footballer and one of Guy Ritchie's favorites, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Well, this brings us to the end of today's video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel to get more videos like this one. Your support is so important. And tell me what you think about this film. Are you a fan of Jason Statham's comedic roles? Or do you just want to see bodies dropping as soon as you hear the name of the legendary martial arts actor? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. And if you're watching till now, thank you. I'll see you in another video soon.